Good evening and welcome to Star Citizen version 2.6. I just wanted to do a couple of quick videos highlighting some of the concerns and more annoying bugs that are currently in the game. So to start with, the use key when you try to get in and access the ship terminal has changed. Now I don't mind the change where you have to hold F instead of just one single press, but it doesn't work very frequently. Before, most of the errors were centered around the ships not actually spawning when you would select one. Now a lot of the problems focus around actually getting the use key to work. Sometimes the use option goes away from the screen, sometimes it takes extra long to happen. I think right here it took 3 tries before this particular terminal would respond on top of the other 2 terminals that didn't. Sometimes it just doesn't work at all. I've had to EVA to another strut before just to get a ship to spawn. I know that was a bug in 2.5, but it wasn't really with the use key to get the actual terminal to respond. Now here, airlocks work just fine. I can't seem to recreate the problem with anything but the ship terminals. Now the flashlight, they lowered the intensity of the flashlight, which outside seems perfect, because outside you really wouldn't see your flashlight in direct sunlight, but in this dark room, I think the flashlight should be a little brighter. You can also see it's having some painting issues where the light's not actually illuminating panels or registering that it's shining on panels sometimes. So I think there's a bit of work to do on the flashlight. I would probably like it if they could make some variable intensities. Maybe if you're in FPS mode, you can go in and use a modifier key to bump up or down the intensity of your flashlight depending on what you want. Now the animations to get into your ships are a little faster now. They've showed some of this on Around the Verse, and I think they're great. Takes a lot less time. Now, the HUD here in my helmet, you can see my ship at the top left. They've changed the ship and the shield layout. Not a huge fan of it yet, but it might grow on me. What's missing, though, is the energy and weapons statistics that used to be visible there. Now, I've gone down into the HUD of the ship, but I can't edit the panel. I can display the information, but it doesn't actually update. I can't modify it through the screen, and I cannot actually get it to display updated information about where the energy is mapped, either through engines, weapons, or shields. I'm not entirely sure it's actually changing the statistics of this ship either, because there's times where I've pumped it all into my shields, and my shields don't seem to be charging any faster like they used to. Now, that's not the end of the world. What really gets me in this view is the field of view has been dropped. It's not a massive drop, but it's enough that I can't even see those terminals anymore. So even if I was displaying my energy information, I couldn't even see it. It feels more like I'm playing a game on a computer monitor, displaying a computer monitor. It doesn't feel like I'm actually sitting in my cockpit anymore. If I was sitting in that cockpit, I would have a much wider field of view. Now I know it's a game, it's on a 16 by 10 screen right now, I'm not playing in Infinity or anything like that, but the old 2.5 and prior field of view was pretty dang good. It felt a little more natural where it could be immersive when you're looking at the screen and the ships. Weapons and damage. I think this is the one that's most confusing right now because it seems like, well, they made all the weapons look the same. I kind of liked having some green and reds. It gave some diversity, but it seems like the weapons don't really do consistent damage, and the ships are a lot weaker now. I'm flying a Super Hornet, which is described on the website as being a space superiority fighter. In 2.5, I felt fairly superior to a lot of other ships before they nerfed the gimbaled weapons a little bit. Then I felt a little weak, but I still felt, and as my previous video showed, I was able to take on some fairly good ships and take them out pretty quickly. Now, I'm not the best shot. I'm still trying to get used to some of the newer controls and the flight mode, but I'm still hitting a fair amount of the shots. May get distracted by a missile or two. These ships just don't take damage. It's really hard to describe. I know I'm fighting a Saber. They're pretty strong. They're designed also as space superiority fighters, and they are also have a small profile. Randomly, my nose turret just got destroyed. I took a small shot to the front of the ship, and my nose turret was destroyed. I had full shields. My ship hasn't really taken any damage until I just crashed into the Saber, but where'd my nose turret go? Why is that gone when I had full shields? I've also lost my main ball turret, to a couple laser shots. It just doesn't seem right. You know, there have been a few times where I've come up on some ships and I have output a lot of damage to them in a very short period of time, and it felt fine. But it's not consistent. Now I'm fighting a Cutlass. I'm going to get a bit distracted by some missiles because there's a lot of other guys around there. I'm going to lose some of my weapons. My nose turret's gone again. But as you can see, I'm hitting him pretty good from the rear. There's a lot of indication that I'm connecting. My shots are hitting him. I don't see any damage registering according to the radar. So, are my shots actually doing anything? Alright, so I'm a terrible shot. Still really haven't done any damage to him. My ship doesn't show any damage even though I don't have a nose turret anymore. And there, out of the blue, I just damaged to red instead of yellow a whole section of his ship. Now I'm starting to take a ton of damage. My shields are gone. I'm still shooting a guy who's got partial red on him. Oh, where'd he go? Just vanished. Well, that's rather annoying. It took me a moment to realize what had happened. I thought he'd accelerated or the server had lagged. Then I realized, nope, he'd vanished. So here's another Cutlass. He flies past me. I come up behind him, and I start shooting at him. All my weapons there. I'm doing really good damage. Boom, he's already red. I took his engine off. I took out the back of his hull. And he's mostly just free-floating in space now. He can't drive because one of his engines missing, and he's out of control. More red. And he's dead. That makes sense. That seemed pretty good. That was in line with how things seemed like they would naturally flow. His shields got taken out pretty quick. Once his shields were down, the hull took a lot of damage. Now, his shields seemed to drop pretty quick, but I was unloading on him from short range with a lot of different weapons. So now I'm fighting a 350R. It doesn't take too long to cut through some of his shields. They're fast ships and they're reasonably maneuverable. But I'm still, once I actually line up a shot, am able to connect a few. But again, the damage just doesn't seem consistent across the board. Alright, so I'm hitting him pretty good here. I took off some of his ship. You can see the damage appearing. And then it seems like some of the damage went away. Could be the panels coming off. It was hard to tell in the fight. But he's still there. Shooting him from pretty close range and never seemed to take him out. Okay. Now I know I wasn't aimed exactly on him that time, but I would have thought a few of my shots would connect with him. Still, a 350R took that much abuse? That just doesn't make sense. There's another 350R. I think I managed to land a few more hits on him this time. Shields are gone. I've shot the hull a few times. It's not yellow, it's not red, it doesn't really register any hits. There we go. All of a sudden half his ship is red and then he destroys. So it seems to go from 0 to 100% damage and is gone. And I mentioned that I don't feel like I'm in a space superiority fighter. And this is going to highlight that pretty quickly. So I'd come up on that. I saw these guys, decided just, let's see how fast I die. Because I was really annoyed at how fast I destroyed. Whoa. I took 2 shots to a brand new Super Hornet with full shields and I'm dead.